live here on We Play Games. Yep, waiting for We Play Games. I think we're here. I think we're good. So welcome back to We Play Games. I'm Walker, and here we are after 3 months, about to do another just like sort of entirely nonsense thing, which we're gonna be doing hopefully in a form that is still gonna be recognizably useful to you guys at home. But I wanna warn everybody, like right now, anyone who is willing to sit through these next couple of streams, I'm gonna put chapters down below. Please, for the love of God, for the love of your sanity, for the love of the 4X genre, use those to skip things whenever I'm just like wandering off and talking to myself, especially today, because this stream was supposed to start at 3:30 Eastern, but our HVAC died like last night, and so now it is 81 degrees, and I was intending to be done with this stream in maybe like 45 minutes from now, because I was hoping to do like a longer stream, just like get myself physically and emotionally prepared for the task of doing that whenever I'm playing Endless Legend 2, which I'm intending to do at some point. But I want to talk about Humankind, because this is a game that has possessed me. Bruno mentioned on the post, I think I've created a monster, and he absolutely has. I don't know what to tell you, people. Like, this game is so close to perfection that it drives me mad, but because of the problems within it, it is still unplayable in my book. We are going to be playing with the VIP mod pack created by Bruno here, and we're going to be talking about, like, why I want to play with VIP primarily whenever we're playing Humankind on the channel. Generally speaking, like, as a pro forma thing, I would prefer to be making vanilla content, because vanilla content is the content that is going to be most accessible and most applicable to everything. But I guess because we're already here, just like kind of vibing and going off, the reason that I prefer the VIP mod pack is pretty simple. It comes down to ludonarrative. So we're going to be, for at least the first little bit of this, we're going to have the OBS set up so you guys can see the chat of me just talking to myself for 2 hours. But ludonarrative is a really interesting little thing that Bruno introduced to me, but it's a conflict or disconnect between a video game, this is ludonarrative dissonance, but this is what we're going to be talking about, which is a conflict or disconnect between a video game's story and its gameplay. So ultimately, there are a couple of parts to this when it comes to Humankind. First, I do think that this game is beautiful. I wish that I had a single live human to tell me if this music is too loud, but my brain tells me it's too loud, so I'm gonna turn it down. If you can't hear it at home anymore, I apologize, because the music in Humankind really is just incredible. But I want my voice to at least be audible over whatever else is going on here, because we're going to be talking a lot about not just Humankind, but we're going to be talking about 4X game design and like things that are happening in the 4X game space that I think are hurting the genre overall, ways that I think that developers have like probably misinterpreted the data that they're getting from their players, because there's like huge survivorship bias problems when it comes to interacting with player feedback, and if you're not careful about how to interpret data, you will make decisions that destroy your video games, I promise. Like, this should not be controversial. This is honestly one of the funniest things I've seen in my entire life. 7,500 players. Nominally, Steam Database thinks that they sold like 1 million copies, maybe 1.2. I don't know. This is ridiculous. This is preventable. This is a consequence of a lot of different things. I don't think there's any particular blame to be like issued at any individuals, because I think that there are a lot of systemic problems that are responsible for this. But like, the 4X genre in my eyes is dying. I don't think that it's going to survive indefinitely with the decisions that are currently being made. And I think it's not hard to understand why, because there are like a lot of behaviors that are just all over the place when it comes to developers and like the feelings that they have towards their own games and towards us, the people who play those games. This is going to be a no doxing stream. I'm not going to say anybody's like Reddit handle out loud or anything like that, but like, as someone who is insane and is definitely like on the internet way too much, I know the handles of a non-zero number of developers and can identify them, and like, the things that they say horrify me, and I think that they're reflected right here. I think that the things that some developers personally believe are reflected right here in these charts, where we see the number 2 and number 3 4X games in the world are on Steam database are not 4X games. I love Paradox. These are not 4X games. they should check this box off. This is mean. You're bullying the 4X games by putting your games here, Paradox. Stellaris is allowed to be here. This is more of a grand strategy game, but like, these are not the 4Xs. What is a 4X, Walker? What the hell are we doing here? You've been talking for like 10 minutes and you still haven't even said what we're doing here. Well, in case it's unclear, what we're going to be doing here is sort of just like a non-Newtonian exploration of humankind, the philosophy of game design in regards to 4Xs, things that I think people should think about, but all of this really is supposed to be sort of like a philosophical direction. As someone who likes history a lot, I'll tell you that you should not look to philosophy for answers. That's a really bad idea. So don't watch these streams looking for like perfect truth. Look for them for like people who are pursuing perfect truth. Look to philosophers to get questions. And that's kind of what I'm going to be doing here, is asking myself a lot of questions. And fortunately, we're doing it when it's like 82 degrees in here, so it's gonna be wild. But just like, I'll put this in the description somewhere. Read this thing. This is incredible writing. I feel like a fraud for having not emailed Alan before he died, but maybe I'll email Soren later and ask him like his feelings on 4X game design. But this is the article that that 4X name convention comes from. It's a great read. It's great because it tells me that Alan also likes Flannery O'Connor, and I like seeing goofball things like that in somebody's writing. So this is just like a really fun little thing to read over if you're unfamiliar with the 4X genre. But the problem with the 4X genre is that like describing what it is and how it functions and like what you're supposed to be doing and like how you're even supposed to be having fun it's impossible. It really is. It's sort of like giving a review to Humankind right now. This is a crocodile out of 10. Like, this could easily be a 97 out of 100, one of the best games like ever made in my opinion, but it also has like colossal problems that kind of make it unplayable if I'm not playing it with the absolute best the best possible mindset. So let me drag this to the bottom, this little thing, so that way the text box goes away. We'll bring that back whenever we have to talk about other things like the Reddit Roundup or maybe like what maps of the world look like. But for now, let's introduce the game. What are we doing here, Walker? What are we really doing here? So we're gonna be playing with the VIP mod. I think the VIP mod, generally speaking, just like describes what I expect human history to look like a little better. We're playing on Humankind, and we're gonna be playing with like on auto resolve only, which we'll talk about whenever we get into the game, like the different little philosophical tracks that I have in regards to things in the 4X genre and ways to interpret them. We're gonna play on fast. I don't know what speed you want to play on at home. I like interact with this game however you want to, but I think that ultimately I enjoy fast the most, and that's another reason why I have to play on VIP, because on vanilla there's some interesting decisions made in regards to game speed. Some things have to interact with game speed and some things don't. And speaking of that, Walker, some things have to interact with the map in front of them and stop stalling and click start instead of just like doing whatever it is the heck that you think you're doing here. But to frame it for everybody else at home, what we're really going to be doing here is dissecting how I learn a game. So I'm at now maybe like 360 hours or something like that in Humankind, because my last playthrough took like 45 hours because I was like writing the entire time, because I don't have to explain myself to you. I do the things that I do out of passion and love, and if that means that I get into fights with everybody, that's just the consequence of being a part of humanity, I guess, of being a part of humankind. But we're gonna be talking about heuristics a lot in this these next couple of streams. Also, if you're like entirely uninterested in Walker's rants about the philosophy of game design, I promise not all of the streams will be like this. Some of them will be useful to normal humans, but some of them will be useful to me, and I think that as a first stream back after yet another 3-month disappearance from the internet, that I just kind of want to do a stream that I know that I'm going to enjoy watching, and I enjoy watching myself being idiots. It's like, it's not top 5 Walker interactions. This is watching yourself vibe and be dumb. And that's not meant as a sign of disrespect to Humankind either. In case it's unclear from the fact that I am streaming a game that is very old and probably not gonna receive an infinite amount of support from Amplitude. I think this game rules. I think this game's incredible. I think that this game, if it had like fixes on maybe like 50% of the numbers, I don't know. Some of the widgets are just like insane in this game and confuse me, but there are considerably fewer of those now, and a lot fewer of them with some of the different mods. Oh, that's another thing that I wrote down on my piece of paper. I wrote down an entire page of notes, everyone, for things that I want to rant about while the game loads, because I know that my computer is slow, and if I just like sit here in front of a blank screen, it's gonna bore everyone into outer space. But good, I lost the thread. The heat is getting to me. Perfect. This is exactly where we want to be, because we now I can't even remember how to play Humankind, despite very recently playing it. And so what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to rediscover how to interact with the 4X genre and the 4X games from the ground up, and we're just gonna like use the fundamentals and the heuristics. Oh, that's what we're talking about. Heuristics, Walker. Pay attention to the words that come out of your mouth. Like, someone probably should. I don't know. It seems like a good idea to listen to yourself sometimes. Oh, but another thing, we're going to listen to these because I think these are critical for establishing the ludonarrative, the gameplay and narrative intersection of the games. So, don't DMCA me. Like, I don't want to have to talk the entire time just so that YouTube doesn't get mad at me for watching videos.
It's your story. But the
Content
first
is
4 billion
reactive,
years
I
or so
promise.
mostly concern amino acids. Not much of a page turner. But then, over time, the amino acids bond together, and things start to get interesting and a bit drier.
The cinematics in the Amplitude games never miss. They really don't. They're all good.
You can do more with a sharp rock than annoy your little brother.
Hell yeah.
Tools and weapons are invented. The hominids begin to cooperate.
I want to like press 12 for this.
Fire becomes a
Gabriel!
sword,
Oh my
rather
god.
than an
Alright, listen.
unpredictable force
We're
of nature.
streaming a bunch of
They learn to
Humankind
tan the
content this
skins of
month. I don't
animals
want to
with
make promises as to how much
They learn
it's going to
ways
be
to record
pretty
them.
unhinged sometimes. You have
Separate
made the
their
unfortunate choice to join me
These tribes
on
learn
what
to
is
build
probably going to be
shelters
the most
and
unhinged stream we're going to
build the first
do.
barbecue.
I love this. I love this shot, by the way. We're gonna use different shots from Humankind videos to like construct thumbnails that make sense to no one except for me and maybe you. Maybe you'll understand what's going on here. But we're incinerating a bunch of like math that's offensive and letting it blow off into space. So that's what VIP does. It makes it so you don't have to know all this stupid math. You can just play the game, explore it, understand what's going on, and have fun. But it's 82 degrees in here, Gabe, and my AC has broken and it was dripping like crazy, so unfortunately we do not have any way to keep me cool. And so that means that not only is the stream like 2.5 hours late, so I'm gonna start getting hungry, but I am gonna start getting deliriously hot. So this is gonna be just an insane stream, but it's gonna be a stream that I hope you're gonna have a lot of fun watching, because I'm definitely gonna have a lot of fun playing. Yeah, VIP is so good, man. All right, so on that note, the first thing that I want to highlight about the movie that I said I wasn't going to talk through and then talk through, I'm reporting you, is that the humans cooperate, and I think that Bruno is 100% right for us to start with 2 tribes here. That means that our civilization, from the very beginning of the game, when it comes to VIP, already has a little leg up in terms of starting resources. People will complain about that, but like the AI starts with them too, and I promise you that if you give the AI more resources, it'll just like behave better. That's why, or rather, it will have better outcomes. Behave better, definitely. Sometimes it depends on how the AI assesses its current position. But I think the VIP mod makes a deliberate and brave choice here, and I think it's one that Bruno, honestly, I would just lean into this. I want 3 starting tribes, so that way all of our people can work together and use their resources to help us like find animals, maybe to hunt, so that way our people won't starve to death, or maybe we'll find like a cool riverbed to walk along, because fresh water is pretty good. That's important, I think. Let's go over there. But because the AI is also starting with this, I don't feel too bad doing apparently what is advanced scouting techniques. This is, I guess, just kind of like freeform jazz now. So we're going to talk about like different problems in the game whenever they show up, in my opinion. But one of the biggest problems is something that's going to make me move display capture back to the top so that way I can rant at somebody about this Reddit thread, which is great, and I probably should also link it somewhere because I think people should gladly interact with the 4X subreddit whenever it's available. But somebody here posted a rant about game complexity difficulty. This thread is an entire mood. If you have not found it yet, then like it's still up there. You can still find it, and it's great. I would read it, man. Like, there's a bunch of really interesting conversations going on here because it's brought effectively everybody out of the woodwork. There's a lot of interesting takes and thoughts and whatnot going on here. But ultimately, there's a point in here. I'm not gonna look for it. You don't have to look for it. You can search it later, Walker. You can use Command F. But there's a point where the OP mentions that effectively there are systems that it feels like the AI just doesn't understand how to use. That is kind of going to be a central thread for today's conversation, where I think that if you're making a 4X, that the most important thing to me is making sure that the genre survives. The numbers on the sales kind of don't make sense to make 4X games, but I think that that's a fixable problem. I think if we just stop catering to a very, very, very small slice of the overall potential fan base, that we can have people like play a game and have fun and like learn and vibe and do cool stuff. But as I mentioned, we're just going to talk about heuristics and fundamentals. When it comes to scouting, you should be breaking up your stacks in like almost every 4X. They're going to be, when it comes to fundamentals, you really should understand heuristics. I started defining and then failed 3 times. So it is a rule of thumb that you're willing to like test and develop and respond to the game. So like it's a good rule of thumb. But a good heuristic is that you should probably split up your stacks so that way you get more vision, so that way you can like see where you're supposed to settle. That's true in Civilization, but even in games like Age of Wonders, where like your city starts in a settled location and you don't have to worry about where your first capital goes, it's where it is. You still want to be splitting up your stacks pretty often. There are exceptions like Endless Legend where the upkeep gets so high that you can't do anything. But the other thing that like I think people vastly underestimate in terms of power is utilizing your early turns well, because that is where snowballing comes from. Like the more growth that you have early, the more that growth has time to accumulate more growth, which in turn allows you to accumulate even more growth, etc., etc. That is the snowballing growth pattern. And so what that means is like if you're excited to get to late game content, just mashing end turn really quickly actually like can get you to late game content later than taking your time in the early phases of the game, because your growth pattern is going to be a lot faster, and if your growth pattern is a lot faster, then unsurprisingly you're going to get to the late game stuff without having to click end turn like 10,000 times. And because 4X games do have like a lot of weird hostile choices when it comes to what they prioritize, in my opinion, there are definitely cases where you're just kind of hurting the player for trying to take their time in the wrong direction. And that's where I think Humankind also has kind of the biggest problems. I think that largely speaking, the systems here are really good. The VIP mod fixes an awful lot of the math that I think is kind of wrong, which we'll discuss whenever we get to the different pieces of math, so that way it can be diegetically taught. I've tried making videos doing that, Gabe. I don't know if you're still here or not, but like the Let's Plays are always, I can't watch them. I do try, but like I can't watch my own Let's Plays. They just bore me. I feel like I have a lot more time to explore games and have fun, like this, like just streaming and talking about nonsense. So that way also I can kind of like derail myself. So that's the other thing here. If you have anything you want to talk about in regards to especially 4X game design, just derail me. I'm happy talking about Master of Orion 2. All right, sweet. Yeah, if you want to talk about Master of Orion 2, or if you want to talk about like Age of Wonders 4 or Civilization 7, like some of them are games that I still don't own Civ 7, so like my posting about it is not to dunk on it, it's to highlight that like something is rotten in the state of Denmark, and I cannot I cannot, as someone who loves this genre and would be driven mad by its death, I can be silent no longer. We have to do something about this. This is crazy. You're crazy. We have to mobilize the third estate. That's what we're doing, Gabriel. If you haven't watched Danton with Gerard Depardieu, which I have to apologize to anyone who actually speaks French. But do know that it is not personal. I have to apologize to anyone who speaks Chinese whenever I attempt to approximate its sounds, because my wife is Chinese. But my mastery of the English language is obviously pretty limited. But yeah, we've went ahead and we've grabbed a territory here. So one thing that I've kind of like gone back and forth on in regards to this, but definitely I feel like I have the right answer now, but that's sort of like the way you build good heuristics in a 4X is you assess the same problem from different dimensions, different directions. Be willing to challenge yourself and do things that you're not used to. We're going to be doing that a lot on these streams, so if we die because I'm dumb, then that's just sort of like the consequence of our science here. I don't think that's going to happen as often, because I have played like a lot more recently than not. This top 10 animated trails is like going over there to grab 5 food. I'm telling people about this, Walker. 5 food. Ooh, all right. Well, there's a river. So here's another like thing that I just think is generally really interesting about 4Xs and is a part of the design that I enjoy. Some of the heuristics that you can like follow are almost always true. Things like production good, that's almost always true. Same with science good, that's almost always true. Rivers are one of these things where like they're very frequently kind of complicated to assess in true value. Sometimes rivers are great, where they give you extra food. Sometimes rivers are bad, where they give you extra food. The value there, of course, depends on what it costs you. Like, are you sacrificing access to production because you're getting the extra food? That also depends on the value of food itself, which is, of course, a product of the different rules that you're going to observe when you're playing a 4X. None of this is to like tell people that you have to galaxy brain whenever you play a 4X. Rather, what you should do, I think, if you want to have fun, because I probably have more fun playing 4Xs than anyone. I have so much fun playing 4Xs that I do not do my job. It's just like very fundamentally obviously true. I have the non-existent numbers to prove it. If you want to have fun, then just like let the game tell you what the people making it think the game is doing, and that is where sort of like the biggest problem in modern 4Xs are. I think it really just comes down to the fact that there are developers who think that an AI should intentionally be non-functioning so that way people can win, but like that kind of assumes that that's the only part of the 4X game experience that people care about, which it is something that people care about. I don't want to sound like the only way to play games is to die a lot, but like if you want people to understand your game, then you need to make an AI that operates as the most human interface for the player. It's the thing that people are going to be able to just look at and say, hey, that's recognizable, that's another empire, I know if I can conquer it, or if I want to be friends, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, it's the most human interface, and people are always looking for feedback from like the games that they play. That's just true. Sometimes it's a biomechanical feedback loop that people are looking for. That's where I think a lot of the games have some problems, because they think that they like as a baseline assume that there's only one way to have fun with the game, and then they like optimize that one specific way to have fun, and then they just like destroy themselves because the people who don't have fun the way that the game wants you to have fun do not feel welcome there, and that breaks my heart, because the 4X genre is beautiful. I think the 4X genre is honestly like one of the most beautiful, and it's because of the exploration phase. It's because of this phase right here. So the beginning of the game, exploration, just to be clear, like I don't think that there are fixed lines in the sand whenever it comes to phases. I think that broadly speaking, it is useful to think of games as having phases, so that way you can contextualize what your like immediate term goals are. But I don't think you have to exclusively think of it as you go explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. But the exploration phase is the part that I love the most, and it's the thing that defines the genre the most to me. Because I like restarting games after I feel like I know who is going to win, and that is a crime that I will attempt to not force on anyone for the remainder of the streams that we do for Humankind. We will finish games even if it requires 3 streams. I don't know. We're gonna try to click end turn more often than apparently I am capable of doing, but we will finish these games rather than just start them and then disappear for a month and a half. It's just where I want to play this game so bad, but it's got some really interesting decisions in regards to numbers, and I think where they come from almost certainly are from like essentially a feedback loop in regards to survivorship bias, that there are people who are used to being able to play the game from the perspective of exploiting, meaning like abuse the systems that are in the game, and I don't think that's the only way to think about that. I think very obviously, very literally, there is a way to exploit terrain in almost every game. Even here in Humankind, the exploitation is the term that they give to the terrain around your territory. So like, I don't want to call anybody out like exclusively to say like this is the only group that is responsible, but I think that people who think that exploit means you should have like weaknesses in the game for people to exploit are saying literally out loud that we think that creative energy should be spent on making the games worse and not better. And that's something that I see a lot, unfortunately, in terms of like observed behavior from developers on Reddit, where like that is the interpretation of that phrase they want to go with. And I'm not Alan Emmerich, so I can't tell you exactly what he said, but I can tell you that the logic behind that is not sound, because I don't like feeling like I have to cheat in a 4X game. I like feeling like I can learn in a 4X game, and if that means that I die to the AI, then that's what you do, or it's what I do. But I think the vast majority of players are not sociopaths, just like generically. I think that's probably a good group of people to want to interact with anyway. They can help you make your games better, like the people who want the games to be better, whereas there's a definitely a second group. Oh wait, actually there's definitely a second group that I wanted to interact with one thing on the subreddit, because there are actually a couple of things that I think are really great in terms of points on this rant, but wait, was it Bavnary? God, Walker. All right, there's a modder for Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. There he is, Bevan Every, and there's a great point here made. Here it is. There we go. Great, you found it, Walker. Perfect. But this is Vivanary. I don't know their work particularly well, but that's kind of not the point of highlighting this modder in particular. It's to just say that, like, honestly, I do think that this is one of the greatest threads that I've seen on a subreddit in like a year and a half. So thank OP for posting it, because everyone's voicing everything, and I think that I largely find myself aligning mostly with statements like this, which is there is a kind of AI modder that revels in exploiting the existing game rules to their logical conclusion. When that kind of modder, I'm gonna assume that this is supposed to be when I make typos all the time. It's fine. When that kind of modder gets a hold of game rules that weren't very well thought out, you get forced to play according to their exploits. If you don't, you will lose badly. Any perceived play space of the game, the choices you thought you had as a player, gets drastically reduced. This is a problem when it comes to understanding how to play Magic. Like, if you have any interest at all in playing competitive, you have to understand that, like, as the choices get more broad and more powerful, they actually get more narrow, because there's just insanely. I'll post it, Gabriel, in the description. It's incredible. This is one of the best threads I think I've ever seen on a subreddit. Definitely in the last year. This is quality content, but it becomes a smaller and much less imaginative game, and I agree with that entirely. That is a design philosophy that unfortunately is not just about AI modding. You will see that basically what it boils down to, the reason why I like VIP is that this is exactly what Bruno is sort of doing with the mod. There's another kind of AI modder who's also a game designer. They will change the game design where it sucks. They will try to balance the experience to create different kinds of player satisfaction. Instead of expecting you to dance on one rigid tune, the logical consequence of the existing game rules as written. If the system game sucks, change it. Makes many of your AI computations easier too. That's also true. Like one of the really truly insane things that happens in terms of 4X game design and the AI is that like there are usually pretty easy systems for improving AI behavior, but that the developers will generally make decisions to make the AI worse, so that way the AI is a little easier to beat, and then putting just like widget bonuses on top of it. But the way that this affects gameplay, I think, is pretty clear. I think it's one of those things that is just like I would call a bad balance decision, which is a decision that hurts most players. I don't care if the game is balanced for competitive. That's not I don't care. Like, that's not why I play multiplayer. I play multiplayer because if you want to learn things, the best way to learn things is cooperatively, is to do what humankind is telling us to do, which is use your units. Where are animals? Where are animals? This is a fundamental flaw in humankind's design philosophy here. Animals are so powerful, and when you don't find them, it is ridiculous. And it looks like we're gonna have a no animal stream here, everybody. Oh my god, I've been forced to play out of one of these in a long time. But you know what? That's fine, I guess. Like, whatever. We're gonna do 4X stuff. We're gonna explore what the game feels like whenever we don't get any stupid animals, and we have to go to like turn 11 to flip into ancient. I'd prefer to flip earlier, but the fact of the matter is we have 18 influence, and that is not enough. We might not be able to save up enough to get a second city immediately, but that's fine. Like, it's the AI. We'll see how many cities they all have at the end of the game, unless Bruno has had a eureka moment in regards to changing the AI behaviors. There are a couple of big problems with the humankind AI, and one of the ones that makes the game just like confusing in the late game, because the graphs mean nothing, and there's no feedback systems. I don't know what cultures are supposed to be good, because like if you have a good start and the AI is like doing stuff, then it's not gonna go well for the AI. I will phrase it like that. All right, good. There's a mammoth. We're back in business, everybody. We can do when two tribes love each other. So if you have food, you can combine the food to create another unit. This is another reason kind of why I like fast over normal, is that you just like waste a lot less time thinking around whenever the spawns are not there for animal fights. But here, great. All right. So I guess this is an opportunity to have another like aside conversation, which is the tactical layer problem. This is, I think, one of the biggest problems when it comes to modern 4X game design, and the way that these games are balanced, because of what who is our leader here, Beavenevry. I'm gonna go with Beavenevry because of what Beavenevry highlighted. Like, I don't think everyone should assume in all of the 4X games that have a tactical layer that the right thing to do is for the player to feel forced to click instant resolution every time. That is gonna very obviously result in strategic fatigue for like people who are more casual, people who are, strategists rather than tacticians. This is an alienating behavior that happens a lot in modern 4Xs, where like the instant resolution is just there, but like doesn't really work or doesn't really understand itself, has some issues in regards to outcomes. I think that doesn't matter to me for humankind that much. I'm more than happy to play through like the weird bugs, but they're weird bugs, and it's because it's an algorithmic resolution, rather than a play it out resolution, sort of like the way that it works in Age of Wonders. This isn't to say that Age of Wonders does everything right. Like, I'm not making Age of Wonders 4 content right now, and I want to make humankind content. So if you're only following the channel because of Age of Wonders 4, then I apologize, but you should be watching other people. There are other people making Age of Wonders 4 content. Like, those people are out there. I don't think there's anyone who's making out there content though. So that's what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be making out there content and making people ask questions. But like, here's just like the basic breakdown for what it comes down to for me and what it comes down for you, what it comes down to for like the average casual experience with most 4Xs. Most people are not going to click manual battle all the time, and balancing a game around like a handful of players who happen to know ways to exploit the AI is mostly only going to be balancing a game in response to those exploits, where you're changing widgets around rather than changing like the fundamental behavioral problems that produce those outcomes, because that's just like easier if you just you can edit some files pretty quickly and change some numbers and defines, but like if you have to recode the AI because people are exploiting it, that sounds like a colossal problem, and you just don't want to fix problems that way. I get it. You have like a real business to run, but the fact of the matter is, because like the vast majority of people who are like on the periphery of 4X, the universe that is slowly dying around us, those people respect their time mostly and therefore will not watch my content. But they also respect their time and therefore will not click manual battle a lot. Like, they'll click it when the fight looks fun or when they're getting stressed out and they feel like the fight is dangerous and they need to make the fight easier. And that's really how you should conceptualize manual battles. Anytime there's a tactical layer in a 4X, I promise you that there has to be a bespoke AI for the tactical layer, and I promise you also that that bespoke AI is probably not very good, and that's just like the consequence of game design these days, that because there is a decision point where they think that you should not be able to learn from the AI but should learn in like a philosophical abyss, ignoring the AI and the world around you, turned like perfectly inward and only doing a Socratic exploration of the self. It's terrifying that people want you to play that game the way that way, but like that's what they're doing here. You can't look at this for behavioral choices. You can click manual battle and fight it and understand the UI a little better, like where to move units and stuff, but the behaviors that you use as a player, the tactics that you engage with as a player during a manual battle against the AI are actually going to hurt you when it comes to a PvP fight, which is going to generally, not that PvP is like the perfect barometer of everything, but it is a really good test of the fundamentals. People want to win most of the time. And the fundamentals in a PvP fight are that there's not stun effects in Humankind. So if you want to stun a unit, you kill it. And so what you should be doing in a Humankind like manual fight is just like massacring your opponent's units before they move. Whereas if we clicked manual battle here, then like the right thing for us to do would be to like go back and defend and make the deer suicide into our unit. It's training your brain to make actively harmful and bad decisions in ways that don't reflect like the fundamental rules of how combat actually works. And that's just because the tactical AI in like most 4Xs is sort of an afterthought. I think that broadly speaking, people do not give Age of Wonders 4 tactical AI like nearly enough credit. It has exploitable weaknesses and some of those make me crazy, but like the AI outside of spellcasting mostly works. And that I think it should be interpreted as high praise. The AI in Age of Wonders 4 mostly works. You can just watch auto resolves. The way that combat really works in Age of Wonders 4 is it's mostly just like mashing a bunch of numbers at each other, and you have to assume like relatively close skill between players in PvP. So like what you get out of an auto resolve is so much closer to what you'll get out of a PvP fight than a manual fight versus the environment. It's crazy. Like it's literally night and day. I'm gonna click instant resolution though, and it's partially because of the tactical combat problem where like I don't want to learn bad behaviors, but also the AI is using instant resolution, and I wish it had an algorithmic like an actual play it out instant resolution. I'd be happy to give the game 5 seconds to do that if it felt like it needed it to play that fight out. I don't think it would have needed it because that fight did not look complicated, but I don't care if we took 10 extra damage because the AI took 10 extra damage, and that makes the game a little harder. And like that's like the other element here is that like not only are your casual players gonna click instant resolution sometimes because they want to see their families and like ignore everything coming out of their mouth. But like you're deliriously, insanely in love with the 4X game players are going to look for ways to increase the difficulty of the game in question. And instant resolution is a way to do that. It really is. Are we going to sack a tribe here for a little bit of damage on this mammoth? I don't know. I've kind of like come down on sacrificing pops. Probably should have just stood here. But one of the things that I definitely should have just stood there. One of the things that I want to like highlight are that just like in Age of Wonders 4, how there are ways to manipulate auto resolves by understanding like what is going on. You can kind of do the same thing here in Humankind. Even if you never click manual, it doesn't matter. You can still interact with combat in, I think, pretty beautiful ways. I do wish that the game showed you like what is going on in regards to am I getting a combat bonus from standing in a forest or not, because the feedback there is pretty limited in scope. But I think overall the biggest issue really is the programming, like just operating on an algorithm, because it means that there are bugs. Like apparently pole arms don't do anything extra if you're fighting against Cav, so like that's unfortunate. We will not exploit that. We will just make units. That's what we were going to be doing anyway. I like making units. I'm not a very complicated man. That's really what it boils down to. Oh, here we can like show off. The AI is doing this back to us. I wish I'd done that with the mammoth, because it means we would have lined up a very clean and easy fight with these two, rather than hoping that the mammoth doesn't like run off into the abyss over here. That would be really embarrassing. But a unit that is adjacent to another unit on the overmap is going to only have one movement point. And so you can use tribes on the strategic layer to like cordon off where animals can go. And that's awesome. That's so cool. That's honestly like one of the neatest things in terms of discovery that I've made in terms of influencing my own way that I want to play the game. Because I want to be able to play the game with risk on. It's just like, it's the way it is. I like games to be hard, and if you don't, then that's okay. But I want to explore what Amplitude is thinking, and I think the best way to do that is to eat their brains, and I think the best way to do that is to just like see what they think the game is about through the decisions that they ask you to make. Seriously, are we really gonna lose that mammoth? Don't lose the mammoth, Walker. Oh my god. Well, if we do, we do. I guess we can take some influence here, so that way we can found another city, or at least another outpost out here. How's our starting outpost doing? So we can also potentially move the outpost around. That's something that I don't like spending early game influence on unless we absolutely have to. But it's something that I think that if it saves you turns and you are an influence junkie, you just found a bunch of influence on the map somehow, then you should do your best to leverage that into FIMC. That's just like generically good for you. All right, maybe we just go down here. That's a really bad tile. I guess that's okay. I don't hate this actually. Yeah, it's kind of awkward in terms of location because it doesn't really expand us anywhere useful, but in terms of timing, I like this 16.5. It gets us no resources, just rivers. So I guess this is another thing that I want to talk about, which is the draft in regards to Humankind. And considering that I honestly don't know if we're going to get the Hunter Star here, I kind of feel like we're not going to. I feel like I probably need to flip if we don't find anything. Maybe we pillage the sanctuary and then flip on 10. That's probably correct. But the draft in Humankind is one of these things that I get that some people really hate the fact that your culture changes, but that's another case where we got to flip the display capture to the top and use this terrifying nonsense tab that I have open. If you look at a map of human history, you will find that human history is not static. In fact, it is almost always never static. There are lots of different sources that you can find in regards to this, so I'm not gonna say like this is the only like authoritative source, because the fact of the matter is that like if you look at the ancient world, a lot of this stuff is partially guesswork. Like we have different archaeological evidence for states here and whatnot. That doesn't mean that states didn't exist here in this valley at minus 3000 BC, but like you should just be aware that the further back you go in history, the scarcer the sources get, which means that sometimes it is impossible for people to say what is like definitely for real going on in the real world. But there's a pretty clear pattern, honestly, when it comes to states. They don't last forever. People move around. Sometimes they're like pseudo states that have like cultures associated with them. Like, although the nature and form of Egypt has changed a lot in the last 5,000 years, like a lot. If you just like look at the genetic assays for Egypt pre and post Arab conquest or pre and post Roman conquest, like it changes a lot who lives there, but how they live there has a lot of similarities. And then same with like, you know, Indo-European peoples, like I don't know if people know this, but like the Dravidian people down here are largely people who were living all the way up into North India, and then like Vedic cultures came through and pushed Dravidian people down south. And then same with like states here, like proto-Han people, the Shang eventually becoming the Western Zhou, and then from there turning into I'm sure everyone loves the Warring States period as much as they like me just talking to myself without music. But like states are not static. They're not static. And people who want a static state in regards to a 4x that's supposed to be historical confuse me, because there's beauty there. Like there's a lot of really interesting decisions that you can make as a game designer to sort of replicate the fact that nothing lasts forever in terms of human societies, but you don't always have to do that from like a negative standpoint. You can do it from a very productive and creative standpoint. And so one of the things that I really like about Humankind, one of the like top tier features of Humankind, is apparently something that some people do not like, which is the fact that your cultures switch around. But this makes a lot of sense to me, because every time you move into a new culture, you're going to be getting, you know, a new legacy trait. That legacy trait is going to tell you how your people are changing in response to their changing environment. Generally speaking, I think it's useful to just take things that like utilize what's around you as a baseline design. I think that's just friendly to people, so that way they don't get tricked. Like if you design things that do not work and create noob traps, that is also pretty hostile game design, and even if you're only doing it unintentionally, because it means that other people are going to experiment with the game, find that things do not work, and instead of like what we're going to be doing, where we're just like vibing indefinitely and streaming in an insanely hot apartment, we're doing crazy stuff. People should not feel like they need to do crazy stuff in order to have fun in a 4X. And if that's what we're asking players to do, then like no wonder those numbers aren't good. And presumably there are problems in some companies finding the right amount of funding to accomplish the projects that they want to accomplish. Because some of this stuff really just like bums me out. That's like really what it boils down to. All right, well, I guess we're just gonna pillage the sanctuary. Fortunately, Bruno has made the deliberate decision to increase pillaging a sanctuary to a full pop. This is something where like I think broadly speaking, the math doesn't need to be perfect in regards to game balance ever. I think anyone who expects that is crazy, because like game balance is a product of map settings, right? Like in Age of Wonders 4, if you're playing in a 1v1 and you're trying to figure out what your tier 5 tome is on a small map, then like you're even crazier and more delirious than I am right now. Like do not delude yourself into thinking that the game's pacing is going to go in that direction, and that the game must be balanced around that pacing going in that direction. It changes a lot based on like map settings and like random stuff. And so like having an idealized perfect form of balance as a goal is counterproductive, is I think the phrase I want to use. Just like it's not horrifying in the same way some of these other decisions are, but is going to have some pretty obvious problems. because if you can't control for how players are going to behave, or even like what speeds they're going to play on. Yeah, all right. I guess we will flip next turn if we can't get the elephant. Yeah, or the mammoth. I think that's probably correct. There was a Bruno. Why did you do this? It says +1 population. I feel tricked. I feel like I have been betrayed. That's definitely something that VIP changed, but added the extra pop there because it kind of typically doesn't make sense to burn down sanctuaries in the Neolithic. Generally, you either save them. So the custom map choices in the lobby, are they all reasonably viable, or are there some crazy choices you should not be making in map gen? It depends a lot on the choices, on like the experience you want to have, Gabe. I would say if you want to be able to play into the late game, then this is just true of like effectively all 4Xs. If you want to play into the late game, you kind of have to play on either like insanely fast, like blitz, so that way you just get all of the resources that you need in order to get to the end game immediately, because you don't need as much scaling to get there, and so it doesn't matter that there's just like less total resources on the map. But I would also say that if you don't want to if you want to be able to play and experience a full game of Humankind where you don't just like fight a couple of AI at the beginning of the game and then it's over, I would play with multiple continents. I would say that if you want to play with a new world, that I'd recommend pretty strongly playing with even more continents in that case, but also more total landmass and like probably less total water, because of course like if you add a new world, then it's going to be eating some of the tiles that normally would be available for players to play on. I'm pretty sure that's how the map gen works here in Humankind right now, and that's not like wrong. Some of the decisions that I think people make in regards to like game development are fine, where like you gotta do what you gotta do to get the product out the door. If making a new world makes the other continents a little smaller, then just tell people to make their continents bigger. Like just tell them, hey, there's more landmass. If you don't want to kill people immediately and you want to be able to explore the new world, then just play on a bigger map. Because there's a video that I did like, I don't know, 3 years ago where I had intended to use it as another one of the abortive attempts to make a how do you play Humankind video. Walker, honestly, please, like, that's what this is supposed to be about, right? That's what you promised it was supposed to be about. But I would say choose a map that aligns with your player preferences, and if you want to see a longer game and a game that goes into the grotesque detail of the 4X, play on a bigger map. Can we kill this guy? No. Even though you're at half HP, you still lose here. I don't really want to trade that off. But I'm not opposed to doing it. Whatever. Screw you, teal, or whatever color this is. This is something where I know some people have like complained loudly about Humankind, that they think that it's offensive behavior, that they've just like boiled how they identify the AI down to the color in question. But like, that's fine to me. I don't know. I like that, honestly. It means that I don't have to worry as much about some like dingly-bop widget things that don't matter that much. Okay, wait. We might be able to do I don't know. If we miss this, it's a catastrophe. But like, what you can do, especially if this stupid mammoth were one down, maybe we can do it this way and we'll just flip next turn. We're just gonna delay flipping until turn 12, and then it'll be fine and no problem. I think we're gonna do this, and then hopefully the mammoth goes there.
This way.
Don't go north. Just not northwest. I know you're pointed in that direction, but look, I'm scary and I have an axe behind you. You should respect my feelings. And my feelings are that I eat you. Let's see. Yeah, all right, we're going to do one more turn. We're going to do one more turn, but we're definitely flipping next turn, kind of no matter where this stupid mammoth goes. Yes! We did it. All right. So this is the way I like to hunt. The way I like to do combat is like this. You get to use the movement rules of the stacks in question. I know that's boring to people. I do apologize. I do know that is boring to people, but I think it's super fun. Yes, excellent, great, we got it. So one thing that Bruno has done also in regards to rebalancing mammoths that make them like a lot less ridiculous to fight in VIP is that you actually get less food for every pop that you have, and so honestly at a certain point it's like stops being good to fight mammoths, which I don't know if I like that either, but that is kind of like trying to solve a specific problem, at least I think, which is extinction, right? Like at a certain point these animals are going to disappear naturally even in vanilla, but trying to express the way extinction works to humans as like having an ecological cost, even if it's one that you can't always necessarily prepare for or understand, I think that's neat. I like that. I think that's cool. I don't know if the numbers for Bruno's mammoth hunts are perfect or not. I kind of feel like that should depend entirely on AI outcomes. The reason there being that like AI outcomes, believe it or not, are probably going to be really close to where like your average player outcomes are going to be most of the time, because like most people when they're interacting with a game, as we've already mentioned, I am going to be as we've already mentioned in this Russian nesting doll, I am going to be putting chapters there so that way whenever I mention a thing another time, you can just skip it. But I think nah, I don't think it matters. I think if, yeah, whatever. I think most people are going to copy the AI. I think that's true. They're going to start by copying the AI. They're going to then determine, hey, the behaviors that the AI is taking don't line up with the outcomes that the AI is observing, and then they're gonna say that the AI cheats. And I don't want to open Reddit. I'm not opening Reddit for that. If you don't believe me that there's like 1,000 threads on every 4X subreddit that has ever existed, from people complaining about the AI cheating because the AI is cheating, then like I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, just interact with your player base more. You don't have to interact with the people who tell you that that's a skill issue. Like the people, when they say that, are not saying I want the AI to be easier. They're saying I want to be able to learn from the AI and see what it's doing and replicate it at home. And when I do that, it is a horrifying and frustrating experience in most modern 4Xs because of the choices that have been made. But most of the choices that are made in Humankind, I think, are made correctly. Some of the really big ones are not, but I think like 90% of the choices that Humankind makes are fundamentally good, are ontologically useful to the universe of 4Xs, and I do not at all get the criticism of why would you copy Humankind? It did not do well. Like, if you want to improve the genre, then just like be willing to do what your antecedents did. Explore, innovate, like do new stuff. If the things that you are doing, if the data you are collecting and the like choices that you are making are not producing the results that you want, then like optimizing that pattern, that path of behavior that you're trying to get the most stuff out of, is probably hurting your bottom line as a business. And I don't want this genre to die. I want to declare, we're kind of declaring war on the 4X genre and like parts of the development establishment over the course of these next X number of streams, but it's not meant as a form of like anger. It's meant as a form of love, because I want them to be able to make as many of these games as they want to. But if they keep making dumb decisions and like hurting their ability to get funding, because studios do care about that, it's gonna break my heart if like all of the top 10 4X games are Paradox strategy games, because they're not the same. Walker, stop it. You said we were ascending. I'm not reloading at all. We're not doing that. That's not where we are, but we are getting distracted. And I think that is a feature here and not a bug. We are getting distracted, so you will have to make decisions on the fly and use fundamentals rather than a spreadsheet to make our strategic choices. And that's what I like about the 4X genre, is that it allows people to be casual. It allows people to accept that random outcomes are part of the like fundamental economy of the universe, because they are. Like I don't know how much you care about Hegel or Epicureanism or Hegel's belief in his take on what Epicureanism means. But I think, broadly speaking, the assertion that there are random outcomes in the universe is, like, observably true. And if you don't believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. I promise. I promise. But there are random outcomes, and creating an economy where you get to respond to random outcomes is generally better in a 4X. It's not always better. There are some that are more solvable. And I do think that mostly those are games that I find less rewarding to play more. Because if then you're just like ignoring the board and doing the spreadsheet. And that's boring to me. So we're not going to do that. We're ascending here on turn 12 into something, I guess, recognizably useful. We're gonna have like 1 billion pops, so I'm not super worried about, I guess maybe we could even try Phoenicians? Do we have lakes nearby? We do not have lakes nearby. We have rivers nearby. I guess, you know what? I'm gonna take Pama here. I think Pama is one of these that if I had to make a tier list for Humankind, which I do not feel comfortable making a tier list right now, which I'm gonna have to get some kind of iced drink to drink, because I don't feel comfortable doing anything right now. But I'm going to play this until we get to at least the classical era today, so that way once I know when the AC is fixed, I can stream the rest of the game. Maybe we'll get through classical. I don't know, but we're definitely getting to classical at least today. And I think that means that like we have to kind of have a conversation about tier listing generally. I think that tier listing in regards to Humankind is an ontological good. I think in order for a draft to operate correctly, like as someone who's just played way too much Magic, a draft requires there to be things that are generically stronger. I think a good draft also has like lots of reasons to consider every object situationally, but in order for a draft to work, you have to encourage the player to want to participate in the draft and not ignore it, and having things that are just generically slightly better is a way to get people to immediately feel that pull. And so I think that tier listing in regards to Humankind is useful and good, and I want to return to making that content, but as we play out Humankind over the course of the next month or whatever, I don't know how much I'm going to be doing, but I want to play a lot of it. We'll see once we get to the end of the game, because of the way that the victory conditions work. I don't know what some of the cultures are supposed to do, because I don't think they do anything. Some of them are definitely misevaluations on my part, which is why we are going to be experimenting with random stuff and using those random pieces to like figure out how the game thinks human history operates. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. That seems like the exact level of content that I am capable of doing right now. You're gonna kill this stupid scout? Get out of here. That's fine. We'll just, if we have an aggressive free city out there that's far enough away that I'm not super worried about it. And it looks like this is probably Sumerians. In fact, this is definitely Sumerians. This is another thing that we're gonna have to be like using baseline heuristics to learn about. I don't know how the together we rule stuff is supposed to be balanced, because generally speaking, I've mostly avoided interacting with it. I feel like most of the time the diplomacy in modern 4Xs can have issues where I feel like I'm exploiting the AI, and I don't want to do that if I don't have to. But I think together we rule might honestly be fixed enough now that I should figure out if it does anything. The Amplitude has certainly put in a lot of work into attempting to make it work, so I want to see if I agree. I want to see if I think that what they're doing is working over there. So we'll probably pick up some of those. We'll pick up some other things that I'm not entirely sold on, but that will be I think, the beauty of the game. I'm lining up here so that way we can flip probably this into a city. Does that make sense to do it for this one? Yeah, probably. We'll have enough influence pretty quickly to do this into that. Yeah, I think we'll be all right. And then I want to just do some chopping. So that's going to be another thing that we'll talk about in terms of like larger 4X game design here in the ancient world.
It's hard keeping up with the neighbors when they have the wheel and you don't.
Accurate.
Humankind learns quickly that everyone.
I kind of feel like some designers are trying to like optimize a square wheel.
Or catch fish. Tribes settle towns. Towns develop markets, and markets begin the exchange of goods, services, and most important, rumors and hearsay.
Hell yeah. Just such a good intro. Such a good intro. All right, so we are playing with Pama. We did not have a sanctuary to burn down, and we're just like grotesquely over. So it's not about it doing it like. Yeah, I think that there are cultures that at the very least have very obviously had a larger outsized impact on human history. I think unsurprisingly, some of those are cultures that have just had like more humans kind of always. Whether or not that is a consequence of the behaviors of those cultures or the environment that produced those cultures, I can't tell you. But I don't also care, right? Because one part of the beauty of making a 4X is that it is ultimately a game. And just like with Paradox Interactive, which again, not to knock those games, I probably play those games more than makes any sense. That's my review of Paradox Interactive. Humankind is a crocodile out of 10, and Paradox Interactive games I play more than makes any sense in an exasperated voice. What are we doing here? I don't think it's a question of historical materialism so much it is a question of player communication. I think having some cultures being a little better gives you a reason to want to advance into the next era faster. And I guess, Gabe, before I take a bio break and get myself something with ice to drink, because that does seem like probably the only way I have to balance the inputs of my biomechanical meat puppet, the reason that I like the era system, the reason that I like the fame system is because of my love of other forms of games. In addition to playing a lot of video games that I do not then record to produce content on, I play a lot of board games that I do then not record to produce content on. And that means that I play like a lot of genres that I just enjoy. And one of them is engine building. I love engine builders. Specifically, I love Wingspan. That's one of my favorite games of all time. It's not perfect. I'm not here to pretend like it is. That doesn't matter. There's fundamental beauty in imperfect things. And I think there's fundamental beauty in the way that this game operates. It's because of what this is going to do here. So first, when Bruno inevitably watches this video while trying to fall asleep at 4 in.the morning, I'm willing to actually see what happens if we go up to 9 stars or maybe 10. I think that there's a limit to how many how high you should go with this, because if you make this too high, then it creates the same sort of widget problems where like you still just kind of have to make the most widgets so that way you progress through the thing the fastest. But I don't think 7 is enough. That's, I think, a big improvement that Bruno makes with 8 stars here, especially because we're using the Together We Rule, which this time hopefully I will remember to make a diplomat at a reasonable point in time, but no promises. I forget stuff a lot. But because of the way era stars and fame intersect, and to be also, this is a very important thing, and the other tools for getting fame intersect, the game largely rewards you for acting as sort of like a Hegelian idealist. I don't care. Like I'm not, even from the perspective of like dialectical materialism, I just want to see a game that makes sense, that does interesting things and like makes me think about how I am supposed to be playing in ways that I find challenging and rewarding. And the way that this works is the way it works in an engine builder, where you can sit down and say, okay, I want to have the most victory points at the end of the game. The way that I'm going to do that is by slowing the tempo of my game down as much as humanly possible, scoring a gazillion stars, and then finally going to the next era. But the mechanics of the game kind of like want you to do the literal opposite of that. They want you to do what you do in an engine builder, and I love it for it. So what the mechanics of Humankind ask you to do is to rather conceptualize it as a sliding scale. The longer that you spend in each era, the more that you're trying to accumulate and amass victory points through these era stars and not through the other forms of fame. The more you're delaying your ability to move into your next culture. And as you accumulate each culture and you link all of the different legacy traits together, not even necessarily in ways that are perfectly synergistic, like your empire is going to change around you as you play. And as you realize, hey, the culture that I was in just isn't really doing it anymore. I need a way to like increase my widget production. Moving into another culture is a way to increase your widget production in a way that asks you to sacrifice long-term victory points. That, I don't know, man. I get that some people don't like this game. I do get that. That's not to say that you cannot enjoy beautiful things, but like, that is one of the most clever little design choices that I've seen in a 4X in an incredibly long time. I wish that the AI agreed with me and thought that the design of the game was clever instead of just like putting widgets into blenders and ignoring the rules. But I think if you interact with the rules that exist within the game of Humankind, you will have a lot of fun. Oh, you know what? Gabriel, I'd like... This is why I if you will forgive me, I must eat an ice cream pop that I found in our freezer, because I think it's the only way for me to be like cogent enough to read and respond to the things that you were saying. But yes, making an optimal culture pick based on your setup is the devs doing historical materialism. Yes, I think that is, I think personally, not only is that devs doing historical like materialism or dialectical materialism, I think that's just mostly how I think that the data says humans behaved. Like, it makes sense that if you live near the coast, you're probably gonna do stuff that interacts with it. Like, most humans that we know of behave that way. It's pretty complicated to try to come up with explanations for when they're not doing that. Sometimes it can be because they're like diaspora communities, people who have like different social technologies than what they're used to being able to use. But overall, humans mostly, especially early on, humans mostly do subsistence farming. They mostly do, or, you know, other forms of subsistence. They do things to keep themselves alive. Did you know that, Walker? You know you're supposed to eat food before you stream? Especially if you know it's going to be 1,000 degrees. Do you know that you can do that? You don't have to make people listen to you eat ice cream. Good lord. Don't tell Eileen. I promised her that I was gonna keep like both of these for her, and then I'm probably gonna end up eating both of them before she gets home. Like, it's just a survival mechanism at this point. I'll have to go grocery shopping to fix this. She won't notice unless you guys tell her, so don't do that. Don't be a jerk. All right, we're getting like a gazillion science. And I like that. I like having a gazillion science. And we're going to have so much influence, we're going to be able to flip both of these cities ASAP. So I guess that's another opportunity for us to discuss just like basic heuristics when it comes to a 4X. Most of the time, people want there to be some tension between wide versus tall, and I don't think that's inherently wrong, but the fact of the matter is that, like, tall gameplay is gameplay that mostly encourages you to ignore the map around you and to focus on spreadsheets. And I just don't think that's where most people are. I really don't. I don't think that I've seen any compelling evidence otherwise, because I think most people like to be able to, I don't know, like play the game in order to learn it rather than not playing the game to learn it. Call me a monster for suggesting as much if you want to, but I think that's pretty hard to deny. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do what I love doing, which is chopping stuff down and whipping stuff out. That's what I love doing. And hopefully as we play and explain like why that makes sense, both from like a mechanical standpoint as well as a narrative standpoint, and something that like I hope gets expanded upon. If they ever make like a Humankind 2, I really hope that like the environment becomes an apocalypse, because that's like where my vibes are. That if that's not where their vibes are, I don't think that's inherently wrong. Like, if you don't want to frighten your players, that's okay too. But I think that there's a lot of 4X, there are just a ridiculous number of 4Xs, in fact, where the environment just like does not matter mechanically. You can mostly ignore pollution in most games, except for like some of them where it's a production problem, like Master of Orion 2. But like, it really is just, it's a production problem in Master of Orion 2. It doesn't annihilate your population. And I kind of feel like I'm okay with that. If we get way more pops early in any 4X that's ever existed, way more resources early, you can blow a bunch of stuff up. I'll forgive you for doing that if you make it look cool. And in fact, not only will I forgive you, I will encourage you for doing that if you make it look cool. Because I like Feast and Famine. I think that's, I don't know, Gabriel, have you played Endless Legend 1? Because that's a game where I kind of feel like I have done myself a grotesque disservice in regards to understanding Amplitude's library. Because I played that game almost entirely without Inferno, and I was wrong, that I was incorrect to do so. I wish that I had not been incorrect to do so, because I feel like I might have missed out a little bit. That game seems pretty good. But like the game's pacing on that, the ludonarrative that is produced by the rules within that game, it's very slow and down tempo. He says on hour 30, turn 14 or whatever. But like the tempo that is produced by vanilla base game Endless Legend just encourages you to like do bizarre things like burning down your own cities and stuff. I don't know. I think it's cooler whenever people get more resources to do stuff. That's just, call me insane. I think it's fun to be able to get resources and do things with those resources. Jesus Christ, do we really have to run 2 friggin'? You gotta be kidding me with this. I don't want to run 2 friggin' guys for this. Do we have a way to get more gold anywhere? I mean, maybe. Yeah, we'll do it for 1 turn. We'll bank up a little bit of cash, and then we can do like responsible things with our pops. But here, this is a neat little thing that I like to think about in regards to how do you understand an economy in a 4X. Have some basic heuristics in terms of which resources you think are more important, but be flexible in regards of the what your expectations are. Sometimes your outcomes will be weird. Sometimes you can reduce the weirdness of your outcomes by paying more attention, but like if you don't understand that they're insanely random outcomes based off of like what is on the map already, even in a game that goes out of its way to reduce RNG, I don't know, play more 4Xs. Like, the map matters a lot. And I love it for that. This genre is awesome. Alright, let's go back home. I don't know. I feel like you have important things to do if we just disband you into this. And this is a lot of turns wasted on chopping, but once we get 100 production in here, I'll feel decent about that city. I guess we're gonna take, I don't know if we need masonry yet, because those guys aren't back home. We'll take calendar, and if we find enough influence to be able to spend some influence to build one of these things, maybe both. I don't know. This is a lot of widgets if we can build both of those, but we need to find influence in order to do that, so that way we can actually still make a city too, because like just not making cities is generally pretty bad. Hey, there's another player. All right, great. Yeah, this is Sumerians as we expected. Another nice little thing, I don't know if anybody noticed this, but another nice little thing that Bruno has done as a quality of life improvement in VIP is that this calendar makes really no sense in vanilla and does insane crazy things, especially if you play on higher speeds. Then like the calendar is going to go mad and bring you with it. And here Bruno has smoothed that out. It's definitely smoothed it out, made it conform a little more reasonably to where people are probably going to be. He's also made deliberate choices in terms of changing around costs of research. So one thing that is true in vanilla is that generally you kind of want to beeline for specific techs because of the way that tech costs increase. This is something where you really do have to actually pay attention if you like want to learn how to play a 4X optimally. The most important thing is to just like pay attention to the choices that you make, and if the outcome that you get is not what you expected, you can run the same thing back, but you're generally going to improve stuff by like testing, just if only because that will tell you why the other things don't work. But very often they do. Very often they do. If it's balanced well. I don't know if anybody's like heard of Old World, but there's another, I don't want to say content creator. There's another content destroyer like myself out there who has encouraged me to investigate actually getting Old World, and apparently somewhere along the way I must have convinced myself to get Old World because I own vanilla. I don't remember purchasing it, but I do own it. So I just need to like email Soren and ask, I'm deliriously insane. Please help me make content. Give me free codes for your DLC, and I promise I'll play your video game. And maybe he'll do it. Maybe he'll do it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to go that way. This ice cream bar is melting. It is 85 degrees in my apartment. I have opened the back door so that way I do not literally die. But unfortunately, the window in my office was painted shut by our landlord before he moved in, and so I cannot open it. I guess we'll keep exploring. There's really no reason not to. We have enough pops to justify it. So should you chop? Should you chop? When should you chop? How should you chop? I think generally speaking, one of the most important things that you need to understand for 4X is just snowballing. If you have more stuff early, then you'll just have way more stuff late. And so if you want to chop, you mostly want to chop early. That's mostly true most of the time. And you also want to freeze things like that whenever possible. You mostly want to think about things from the perspective of here is a basic thing to test, and then respond to what the game is telling you. Now, Bruno has made some decisions in regards to civics in terms of like rebalancing where they come from, how to interact with them, but he's also like made so many meaningful choices, decisions in terms of changing balance on some of the base cultures and the way that base mechanics work, that I don't think you can just say the civics are better or worse. The civics that mostly exist in vanilla, I think, are mostly good now and mostly communicate interesting and fun things with the player, and I think that's where civics should be. And so the fact that Bruno has changed them is like kind of something that I feel agnostic on. I'm sure that at some point I'm going to play other mods on the channel too, so that way I understand what other people are thinking about whenever it comes to trying to fix the problems of humankind. But like I think mostly civics work in Humankind now, and I think that's cool because it gives us a way to think about using soft power, which is what influence is. If you are a fan of nutso stuff, then you're a fan of HUDs. these are great. The heads up display, because it communicates like all of the most important things to the player kind of all at once. And a good heads up display is pretty unapologetically my fetish. Like, I just love being able to learn things. All right, fine. If we click this and we click this, we will spend 30 influence, which is down to 63, and then we'll get plus 23. So Usopp, I don't know, maybe, I don't want to promise anybody that I'm going to, because like right now that is not a very high priority for me. I would say if there's a non-zero chance on the next like the next giant expansion block, if they do a season 3, maybe I'll come back to Age of Wonder 4 stuff. But rather, what I want to do is just sort of like explore the 4X territory and see what's going on out there, because it really feels like there are some problems in 4X game design that are being like repeated over and over and over again in terms of games, and causing games that I think have really great mechanics fundamentally to fail where they do not need to. And I don't like that, because I want this genre to do well. I really do. I want the genre to do well, so that way I can make low quality content and do well. That's the truth. I want these games to do well, and then I can make the content that I enjoy making, which is just like cerebral nonsense, and still have like enough viewers that that I feel like the genre is going to do fine in the hands of more responsible people than myself. That's really what it boils down to. I might make more Age of Wonders 4 content. I don't know. That game really is insanely good. It has humongous problems, but I will say that I think, broadly speaking, the last 3 patches have all been very good. And so the problems are... Yeah, the honesty is, I think, probably the only useful thing you're going to get from me today, Usopp, because Gabriel has already heard this, as have the people who are watching this as a VOD after the fact, but our AC broke during a thunderstorm last, it was 2 nights ago, and apparently it broke in such a fashion where it's just kind of like leaking into the apartment. So I have to turn it off until the dude can come back either tomorrow or Thursday. He has not told me which one yet, but I promise that we are going to attempt to do 2 streams this week, as long as I can get air conditioning, because it's 85 degrees right now in my apartment, and I'm a sweaty, hairy boy naturally, and this is agony. But that's kind of the 4X experience for me also. Like, this game in particular, I think, is actually very good, but as we get further into the game, you'll discover, as I discover, how unbelievably alone we are in terms of the AI and its behaviors. But I'm intending to get to the point where I can stream, I don't want to say an exact number, but probably between 8 and 10 hours a week, pretty reliably, and make some form of useful content along the way. Some of these streams are not going to be. Some of these streams are going to be like this one, where they're there for people who are interested in random nonsense. But if you're exclusively interested in learning, I will tell you which streams to avoid. And this is a stream that is more cerebral than I had intended already, and that is a consequence of the physical environment around me and nothing else. Nothing else. I'm just very, very warm right now. Good lord. I guess here's an important thing to discuss about Humankind that we got distracted from, but I think is still kind of true. In Humankind, food is mostly bad in vanilla. And it's important to have, heuristics where you test things and come up with reasons for them. And I would say that food in vanilla, it has gone up in value thanks to the Dante patch, but in a way that is inherently destructive. So it makes it so that food, especially reinforced as an upkeep over and over and over again, it remains something that you really kind of want to minimize your input costs in regards to. But because there isn't like a way to use it positively, there isn't a way to use it creatively, to do something useful with it. You can only do destructive things with it, which is prevent yourself from, everyone starves to death because there's no growth, because all your growth is going to your army. So, you have to make food, but, that's you don't want to make a lot of it. In VIP, that changes a lot because what Bruno has done is brought back effectively whipping. In vanilla, this number is so low in terms of the production that you get because it's just effectively a consequence of your industry per worker number, and then multiplied by some stuff, and it's just like way too low and costs 1,000 pops to build like effectively nothing. In VIP, that is not the case. You will see here immediately, we can in fact do it right now. We can buy out with population, get a fish trap, and now we have so much food that we can even move the pop off and still have enough growth to keep growing and potentially use more food to make more stuff over and over and over again. The numbers might be a little too high for VIP. I'm not actually honest. To be honest, the reason that we're doing these streams also is to just learn the game. Like, having good heuristics means testing them. It requires understanding that sometimes your expectations will be wrong, but overall, food is mostly pretty bad in vanilla because you can't do stuff with it. You mostly try to just like not starve to death. In VIP, it is a creative masterpiece, and I like that. I think that's good. I think it's fun when buttons do things also for the AI, because it means that the AI tricks itself less by like taking things that are accidentally bad for it. Because I'm not an expert on Humankind's AI, but I'll tell you that it does certainly have behaviors where it either is asking its personality for decision trees that kind of don't make sense, or it is like rolling randomly and picking things that kind of don't make sense. And I don't like that. I want the AI to tell me what it's thinking, so that way I feel like I'm playing the game with it. So that way these games feel more, I don't know, like more live. That's really what I want. I want an AI that feels more live. It doesn't have to beat the crap out of me all the time, but because I'm gonna make plenty of bad decisions to beat the crap out of myself. So I do not need the AI's help in that regard. I've got plenty of nonsense here, but I want the AI to make me feel like it respects the game's rules. Hey, well, they're doing it right now. they're bullying my guy. Can we do anything about this? I guess we could make city defense, but we still don't have organized warfare in order to reinforce here. So if we want to save this dude, we have to waste another unit's turn. I guess. Whatever. We'll just like go here and hopefully the AI doesn't just like attack us like a jerk, even though they probably would be justified in doing so. Yeah, that's the story I'm gonna tell. The AI probably be justified in attacking me, but I hope they don't, because it'd be mean. I don't think we want to chop that with this guy. I think I'm okay actually just whipping here, so we're going to disband into Kawuka. This is something here where I'm actually not sure how the math works with sticking other outposts together that have floating food. This is probably not working correctly from like a game accessibility standpoint. I think mostly if you want the game to be accessible and like fun for normal people, you want to make it so that the math operates as favorably for the player as possible behind the scenes. That will also like make it so that the math just tautologically also operates favorably for the AI. And it's okay for like the player to get slightly more stuff out of doing things than the AI because the player knows what's going on. But like if the AI just gets more things, the AI will do better. Wow, this city sucks. Why did you found this, Walker? Because you could build some random things. Don't lie. That's why you built this. So I guess we could do here and here as maker's quarters. Seems okay. Yeah, it seems okay. It's not the end of the world, but this city is grotesquely slow in terms of initial growth. We will have to fix that by demanding that our population sacrifice itself in corvee projects. But that is why I like Bruno's numbers better. We're gonna like float around the concept of ludonarrative like an insane person, but if the numbers produce behaviors that are really out of sync with my understanding of human history, it always asks me like to ask myself why, because if you're making a thing, it's okay to make concessions to the fact that it is a game. Make decisions that make you happy as a game designer. But if you're trying to make a historical game, I know some stuff about history. I spent a lot of time pretending to be a history student and going to some classes and reading a lot of things in my own spare time. But like, there's pretty strong evidence for humans doing inhumane things to themselves in regards to producing their environment around themselves. Sometimes that was necessarily wrong, but I think oftentimes it's just sort of it explains the way that humans don't have infinite resources when they're not burning fossil fuels. That's just the way it is. That's the way it is. And without them, humans had to do really inhumane things to get important things done. That's where, like, I kind of feel like Bruno could readjust the whipping numbers to, like, maybe be more close to how I think they probably should work. Whatever. I guess we'll work on writing. But what we're really working on now is a method to end the ancient era. That is, like, kind of always the most important thing if you want to do well in humankind, is get out of the ancient just, like, as fast as possible. Don't dick around there, because you can get the, like, basically the ancient experience by being on classical, but by moving into classical faster, you just collect more widgets, and then you can turn those extra widgets into more fame later on in the game, because there's a lot of sources of competitive fame. And I like that. That's like, honestly, my favorite part of humankind, is that you can get widgets from doing other stuff, or you get fame from doing other stuff. Yeah, and widgets. You get fame and widgets. Walker, if you just say widgets 10,000 times, I'm gonna punch you. I guess we could potentially even save up for something here, although I don't really want to be buying these guys. I will say this is another thing that I am excited to talk about whenever we get to it. I think religion is one of those things that I bet is probably pretty easy to fix, because Bruno seems to have fixed it pretty cleanly here. And so I'm hoping that with the few hours that we have left with humankind development out of Amplitude before they inevitably are forced to move on to other projects that have not been around doing nothing indefinitely. Name of this stream. Once Amplitude is doing other things, we're probably like SOL in terms of getting humankind perfect. But if we can get humankind good enough, I'll be pretty happy about that. And I don't think it's going to be too hard to get it good enough. There's some pretty easy fixes, and making religion just a little bit better, I think, is a great way to go. I think that the game largely does a really good thing with religion anyway. And here it is. We're hit with unbelievably good music. Good lord. I guess we'll just disband some stuff into Maru-Papu. Go be absorbed into a corvee system. I order you. Boom. 7 surplus. Sweet. I guess we could get... Oh, good. Actually, good. Very good. Maru-Papu. Well. Alright, everybody. Thank you for your service. You've done incredible things for the nation, and we're all very proud of you. But unfortunately for you, it is time that you consider the consequences of the things that you've done. Go over here and get transformed into industry. And we won't ask about the specific method of doing this. That doesn't matter. Don't worry about what we're doing. Everything's fine. The people who live here love living here. It's great. But we can actually make food in the game now because of Bruno's rework, right? Without this, without Bruno, without the VIP mod, if you're just like turbo maxing food in Humankind, your economy is going to be non-functional. You have to just like build stuff in Humankind, and I don't think that's bad. I like building things. I like playing Victoria 3. I played Victoria 3 very recently, and I hope that I can share that with you too. But I did play on 1.8.7, and I posted about it on the subreddit, and I liked 1.8.7. I thought it was pretty good. I have complicated feelings about 1.9. I get that people like it. It does do a lot of stuff well. I think it also makes a lot of pretty interesting mistakes in ways where I have difficulty describing why those mistakes are made. But I don't know, man. Like, people are gonna do what they're gonna do. I guess we're working on Palma, so there's no reason not to grab a fancy thing here. A natural wonder. Marupapu, you can absorb another pop, can't you? Yeah, you can absorb another pop. Get over there. Get a real job. Like, honest to God. Jesus. Criminy. Yeah, let's go chop some stuff down. So by sacrificing production later for production now, you speed your snowball up in terms of real growth. You get yourself the resources you need to move. And then once you are moving, then you take considerations about long-term economic consequences into account. But like at the beginning of the game, don't worry about any of the long-term stuff, because the long-term stuff will come from doing good stuff early. I guess we could even do this, because this is another change that Bruno has made that I get that some people get freaked out by. The basic infrastructure reduces job slots. I actually think that's good game design as long as you are careful in how you communicate with the player, because this is going to make it so that each person working on feeding everyone else is going to be a lot more efficient. +4 food with the -1 farmer slot in terms of real math, in comparison to a basic granary, means that like we're kind of not really getting as much as we need to until we get to 2 job slots. But because we got the fish traps, we actually have an extra. We have an extra farmer. Should we whip this turn or next turn, though? I think I'm going to wait one more turn on that. We've already whipped twice in Marupapu. I think we can wait one turn to see this guy roll over to 6, and then we burn down to 4. And we actually even probably are only going to burn down to 5, because the granary, I'm sure, is going to be, like, insanely fixable with 1 pop. And Kawuka. Yeah, you, Kawuka, absolutely buy out with pop here, and we're actually going to set up an expert policy that makes a little bit of sense. So the expert policy is sort of like micro, it removes the micro in terms of pop shuffling. Pop shuffling is important in a lot of amplitude games. I don't want to ding it as being inherently offensive either in terms of like game design, because I kind of do like it sometimes, but it needs to feel like they're automation tools that make sense. In Endless Space 2, which is my favorite amplitude game, and probably always will be, because that game is so good. I like pop shuffling is unfortunately a necessary component of it. There's just way too much that you can get in terms of widgets by moving your people around. But because this is very simplified in terms of outcomes for pops, you can just use expert policies that make sense. That's okay. And I think this is probably what makes sense for these cities, considering how industry barren this entire city here is for now for Kawuka. We need to get another outpost, but that's okay, because in getting another outpost, we will get an opportunity
of crops
to get more stars. We didn't get the fame for writing. Who did? Who stole my writing star? My writing points? Unknown. All right, fine. You get those points this time, kid. That's something that I love about humankind. I just want more competitive sources of fame. Make people fight over the real winning resource in ways where they don't have to annihilate each other. That's good. That's good game design. That's not to suggest that I don't like annihilating people either. I like annihilating people sometimes. It is cathartic, if nothing else. But I don't like feeling like I can only annihilate people. And if your military system and your winning system and all those other things are not sufficiently well developed, you kind of just make it so the player has to kill people to do stuff. All right, yeah, we'll take wheel. That's fine. This is a little slow, but if we're not trying to rush these guys and conquer them in the classical, I guess it's not even an apocalypse. Yeah, that's not too bad. Let's make some civic changes here now that we've like wasted so many turns on not making civic changes. We haven't picked up religious districts yet, but this is one of those things that I think is really great in terms of Bruno's rebalancing. I don't know what procession does in vanilla because I never build it, but he has made those sort of little dingly bop things that you can build much, much, much better. And then, of course, by making it so that religious districts aren't as good, by also rebalancing some of the religious choices. Some of these are no longer like set it and forget it, this thing better, that thing worse. All right, I guess I'm still gonna turbo max here in terms of getting a little bit of science out. I don't hate doing that, especially because here we're gonna be still getting these divided codified laws and what's the other customary laws. He's changed the math here in regards to influence saving by splitting it in half, so you can get stuff like this: create post versus this. A spreadsheet would tell you like the exact amount of value that you get out of this influence versus that influence, but it wouldn't tell you things like this, moving from 5 stability back to 10 and sacrificing 5% science unless you plan it well. We'll go with this. I'm okay with Divine Mandate. Oh, he's rebalanced Autarch. I don't know. I actually really like Autarch in like OG and vanilla. It might be a little insane in terms of the like fins associated with it, but I think it's neat. But you know what? There's another cool thing that we can talk about here, which is how Bruno has like indirectly improved playing tall. So here, where is it? There it is. +4 influence from city cap. If you play enough, you'll see that the AI sometimes will just like get stuck on 3 cities and just be stuck on 3 cities, and that's just like what the AI does, and that's just that's how the game happens. There's nothing you can do. There is no escape. That's what the AI is doing. But by making rules that conform to the AI's behavior in like favorable ways, you can make the game like a lot more accessible to the AI without making the game like unnecessarily difficult. Because I don't know, like, it sounds like Old World is going to be a lot of fun whenever I get around to playing that one too. But it does also sound like that game might have criticisms that make sense. But I don't want to levy those until I see it for myself. If the game is impenetrably difficult because it's challenging and does not communicate well with the player, then it needs to also be fast, I think, most of the time, kind of like Slay the Spire. Because if it's impenetrable and long, you've described perfect agony, I think. Let's see. Perfect agony. That's the real name of this stream. Perfect agony as I bake slowly within my own room. Oh my god. How close are we to the next thing? So we'll get Builder Star. We will get an Expansionist Star if we can just like make a unit go do something useful with its life. Go over there and do something useful with your life. I don't know, put an outpost down here and then move it immediately. That's a thing you can do. Oh, frick. Gets us the same number of turns because it's 2 turns out here. Alright. Alright. Fine. We'll do that. That at least sets us up to control down to here. And there's a minor sieve. So that's another thing that I know Bruno has changed a lot. We're going to talk some, I guess we've already started this, so I'm late to my own party, but we're going to talk also about changes that have been made in regards to VIP versus vanilla. And one of the things that Bruno has done is made it like a lot less favorable to just eat all of your free cities immediately. That's okay, I guess. I kind of don't hate that if that's going to be the way that you're going to make the game. I don't think you have to make the game that way. I think you can make the game definitely allow for these things to exist and be a participant in diplomacy and the creator of quests and like other things that aren't overwhelming in their complexity but allow them to feel more alive. And I think that generally that's where I'd prefer that they be, rather than there just be artificial barriers against eating them. Because I don't know, man, when we get to the classical, that video tells you to go eat people. Like, that's in the text. You can't deny it. Do not lie to me, collected people who have watched that video. It orders you to conquer. And who am I to disagree with what it's telling me to do? Like that's false. That's madness. That's arrogance to deny that. We must devour at some point. And I guess I don't know if I want to make Stonehenge unless we're doing like enormous faith stuff, which I kind of don't feel like we're on track to do just enormous faith stuff. So I might just save the influence for the opportunity to attach this, and then maybe make this into a city, and then we'll eat that city later, and then we can use Scythe to connect everybody. That looks okay, honestly. I'm pretty alright with that. Fishing. This is another change that Bruno has made that I forgot to highlight during the ancient draft. But now the Phoenicians do not need fishing in order to build their emblematic order. I think broadly speaking, the easiest way for the player to understand dialectical materialism is for legacy traits to be good and to reference and interact with a specific part of the economy. Generally, I like environmental economic interactions, but I don't think you have to exclusively do that, right? If the point of Joe is for them to have a gazillion pops and then use the gazillion pops to do stuff, then they can not have an environmental trait. That's fine. But I think that broadly speaking, environmental traits are good because they just help players understand at a glance, when is this thing supposed to be useful? I think that's good. I like having things that are pretty obviously useful sometimes. Right? Are we good on? Do we want to whip the lumberyard, or do we want to try to whip the maker's quarter? Or do we want to try to get an envoy on the board? There's a thing. All right. There's a thing over there, Walker. Let's do this. And then we'll get 25 production from that chop. This is 110. We might have to whip a second time, but we'll probably be floating at 6. So it's okay. It's fine. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to buy it out with some gold. Maybe. Maybe we won't be able to. But we will find out. That's the other thing, is that people who obsessively do insane amounts of spreadsheeting, if you forget about something like an active income and you've just spent 15 minutes trying to plan out the perfect math for your turn, and then you click end turn and you realize, oh duh, there it is, I got a chop, great, all of that planning that I did was useless. That's true. That's not because UIs are bad. That's just because in most good 4Xs, there are things that are non-spreadsheetable. If you accept that, you will attain something. I don't know. I don't want to promise you anything good, but you will attain something. Woodland, I guess we could chop down. Starting to not want to chop all of the trees here, which is where I like to feel. I like to feel that tension constantly. And I guess that means I'm just going to disband you. That's fine. Can you whip that out in 2 turns? Nah. 7. I guess we could do that next turn on the whip. Maybe. I don't know. Now we're in full-on exploration phase. Now we're in trying to determine what is our best path, and is there anything that the game is telling us in regards to what it thinks the best path is, if that's different from where we are. Buttload of science, that's fine. And construction quarters, there we go. So now we should still have 247. Why are you dummy? Look at the math involved. You didn't do the numbers, and now you can't make it 1 turn earlier. Can we make a good... Oh, yeah, all right. So we can make this instead. We'll just say we wanted to be here, because now we're going to go to 247 and then, 219 and then plus 63. So if we do this with a harbor, we can still make that into a city next turn. Or we could just attach this. Bro, I don't know, man. It seems like just attaching it seems pretty good. Let's do it. All right, so we're gonna chuck down a harbor. I like doing harbors most of the time if you have an excessive influence. And given what our dudes do, we absolutely have an excessive influence. And now this city Kawuka finally has some friggin' stuff to build. Good lord. 5, 2, 4, 7. I guess we'll go here. Yeah, that's fine. That's inoffensive. This is another thing that Bruno has changed that I wish I'd remembered earlier. Curse you, Bruno, for changing things that I think are mostly good, but I then forget about. How dare you? How dare you? But now we have methods to actually increase the value that you get out of chopping, which I think is important because as the game goes on, you do also have issues where, like, if you burn through all of the forests in the universe, then abstain from intoxicants becomes a lot worse. And we've already burned through most of the woodlands. You still kind of get more ultimately from abstain. I think from the holy site thing, which it looks like he's added that back in. But we'll find out in practice. It might even make sense for us to take a different pick first if we get there. I don't know. That's one thing that I do think is generically good in vanilla, is that there's one that is like a lot stronger than the other ones to encourage people to move in, but this one's definitely too much, like, in terms of vanilla. I don't know what numbers I like, or if that should even be the one that I want to like. I think it's okay if it's a different widget. Production is really powerful. All right, good. Are we gonna be able to do that this turn? Can we get there somehow? Is there a way to find... No, we're not going to be able to build three districts this turn. That would be... If we built 3 districts this turn, it kind of feels like we'd be doing something wrong. Can we get expansion? I want to see if we can find a star this turn for flipping, but it looks like it might be next turn. Oh. There's one. There's a thing. There's a dingly bop. Yes, widgeted. All right, everybody. That is beautiful. So we've successfully grabbed a diplomat early, which I think we can use like pretty cleanly here to just scout around and do good stuff. No, get out of here. Don't eat my guy. I don't know if there's a way, so what we just saw there is something that the AI is incapable of doing. If the AI is like pathing, it will not stop whenever it sees something dangerous, and then the AI will just like wander into bears and die. And I don't know how to fix that without giving the AI the ability to see the map. But I think because I do think that largely the environmental picks are ways for the like for Amplitude to communicate, hey, the environment is important, pay attention to it. I don't hate that. I don't hate having an AI that can see the board. I think that's actually mostly critical. Mostly critical. All right, remind me later. We're gonna do that this turn, I promise. But don't bother me right now. I'm trying to finish this turn without sweating to death. Don't bother me with that right now. I'm trying to manage the biomechanical meat puppet here. Yeah, that looks okay. That looks fine. You disband here. We're back up to 7. Do we want to do another buyout with Pop? That would give us a lot of rocky things to exploit, and that's 120 production right now for that versus 125 for another Maker's Quarter. So one of the things that I do think is great about Humankind is that like you don't literally just do district spamming. The districts are really powerful, so I think mostly you rebalance districts by making the other tools that exist in the game better. That's where I would start in terms of game development for fixing up vanilla right now. But the other things in the game don't work very, very well in like the mid game, especially pops, and so like just makes those better and you'll make districts generally worse. But I like the fact that districts give you a way to very easily and cleanly convert growth between types, and then that you have like the basic infrastructure that you sprinkle on top of that. Do I want flooded irrigation? It's only 7 food. That's really, like, it's pretty boring. 7 food is pretty boring. That's my review of it. Well, I guess not. Maybe Maru Papu is just building stuff. Maybe we build an embassy. I wouldn't hate having extra stuff here. Market adjacency so bad that even having 3 luxuries surrounded is not worth building one. Not really. So like market quarters, here's the thing with the market quarter. If you're building a market quarter early, I think you need a plan for how to utilize the extra cash that you're getting in. You can use it on buy rushing. And I think that as long as you're, getting tempo value positive things out of doing that, then that's like perfectly fine. But I would say 90% of the time in the early game, you are much better off trying to build stuff, even in vanilla or even in VIP. You're much better off trying to build stuff by having like a baseline industry and then supplementing it with the other sources. And ultimately, I'd rather save like an adjacency like this for maybe an emblematic quarter that's a market. Because you're right, like putting a market here would be pretty good. I wouldn't even mind putting a market here, or maybe here, but like they're going to be cases where we're going to probably hopefully want to take a money person here in this playthrough. I'm so hot right now. I'm so hot right now. Lulu, you probably have missed my ranting about this already, but our HVAC system broke and now it is like 86 degrees in this apartment. And I'm a chunky monkey, so like the combination of those 2 independently true things means that I am probably losing 5 pounds of sweat today. I guess we could just disband. I don't even hate doing that. Although I guess, yeah, exactly. I am so hot right now. Hansel. I don't know. It like I am a man who is pretty happy dealing with most environmental situations, especially if they are cold, because I do have fat stores to drive on. But I love the South because it's like full of green energy and like I can wear flip-flops literally all day and nobody gives me any sort of eyebrows about it. But I'm used to the South with the conveniences of modernity. I'm weak. I've grown soft, and now I'm gonna be destroyed by the AI because I've grown soft in my complacency. So like if you're gonna design a historical game, I think having a historical ludonarrative to interact with is probably a good idea. I don't know if the like growing soft and like decadent system of historiography is something that I care about. That system is usually pretty boring and like very obviously founded in a propagandistic goal rather than a scientific one. So I don't care about that. But like some of the choices that most people make in regards to historiography these days, I think are right. I don't know about Civ 5. Like I've not played it. It could be that the selection of leaders and cultures and stuff really is alienating, because that is a problem. If you just pick things that absolutely nobody's ever heard of, and that is something that some of the review videos that I saw did highlight as an unfortunate reality of the thing. If that's where the game is all the time, that's not great. But if the game is teaching people stuff about things, I think that's good. I think it's cool for a game to teach people about things. And this is, I think, the coolest thing that I've seen in terms of playing VIP, and probably why we are going to be stopping here, because I need to change my shirt. That's how gross it is. But I don't think I've ever seen the AI in vanilla get to classical before me. Whereas on VIP, even with a better start than we had, because we failed to get the animal star here, we didn't kill 3 animals. We had to push through because I wasn't gonna just like dirtle in the Neolithic indefinitely. But even with better ones, like a better start, the AI still beats me to like classical very consistently, and I love that because it means that I have to respond on the fly to what the AI is doing. Especially the way that it's assessing things. So Lulu says, Sci-Fi the issue of there's only being a single meta. Yeah, yep, that's exactly right. So Lulu, I don't know how much of this Delirium stream you've watched already, but that is like kind of the biggest problem that I feel is like holding the genre back right now, is that there does seem to be like a very, very, very particular slice of the player base with a very particular slice of behaviors who are dictating sort of like the direction of development. And I think the developers can push back against that. Like, that is a choice that developers make. And some of it also is definitely not players' fault, because once you've spent too long on the internet and you know the handles of all of the developers, you can start to like figure out where problems in their games are coming from, because they'll tell you while identifying them as solutions in ways that make me insane. But you make a game that is fun for more people. If you make a good game that is fun for more people, oh my god, I left display capture at the top the entire time. That is my fault, everybody. That is the Delirium stream talking. But if you make a game that is more fun for more people for a longer period of time, and rather than like, you know, dopamine junkie chasing, trying to find a game that will be fun for a handful of people for an extremely long period of time and then ignoring the rest of us. If you make a game that is democratic in will rather than just like chasing down whales, you can make games like this. Civ 6, honestly, I did not like Civ 6 when it released. I still think that Civ 4 is the best Civ, but I think that Civ 6 is honestly the second best. And it's because like they worked the crap out of this game. Like, Firaxis did not abandon this. They tried really hard to not just integrate community feedback, but also integrate like the second order community feedback, which was if the players are repeating, here is a criticism that I have over and over and over again, not just like reacting to that criticism, but like improving on it and iterating on it. And unsurprisingly, Civ 6 is the highest like 4X game here. I don't think it's the best 4X game, but I do think it is very good. I think what 85% is what it says here in terms of rating. I think I mostly agree with that. I think Metacritic 88, sure, whatever. That, like, both of those suggest this is a very, very powerful game. Lulu, at some point we're probably going to have to do like 2 back-to-back Vicky 3 streams, because I think that 1.9 is actually mostly good, but makes some decisions in terms of like the narrative that it is producing for the player that confuse and terrify me. And that might just be like, I'm disconnected from the community, but like there are a lot of criticisms online on Reddit about like needing to do autarky in 1.8. And that's not true. Like, I played through with Hindustan and did not ally with Qing, and was just like brute forcing the EIC and the UK, and it's because trade was ridiculously powerful in 1.8. But trade was ridiculously powerful where it was weighted towards like weaker nations because of what you could do with it. It was largely that you created the global market, or at least benefited from the non-existence of it. And the way that it's been like developed now, I don't think is always wrong, but it definitely has made it so that like larger nations can like rely on the global market for industrial stuff like a lot better, so you don't have to do things like getting investment rates. But like the fact of the matter is that like, in 1.8 you could do a lot of trading, and so if they're making those changes because people don't like how laggy trade is, good. Trade was grotesquely laggy on 1.8, and it was because the UI made no sense and asked you to look at the game in a way that also does not make sense. But if the goal of making the world market was to make trade good, trade was already good, and so I don't know. It's confusing because make better patch notes where we can read and understand your thought process, and I think that the player base will be able to understand your thought process as developers more, and I think that's important. I did not do the star vouching. Like, literally, the last time that I played was 1.8.7. I actually haven't played on 1.9 at all. I've, like, mostly just been reading things and, like, watching a couple of other content creators. I talked about how you're supposed to learn, and we're going to try to make the next stream, which, for Lulu, we are going to attempt to do a second stream this week. It is going to be dependent on my air conditioning being fixed. Because this is agony. But if the AC can be fixed, we will be doing 2 streams a week at least, for the indefinite future. Yeah, the goal of trade being able to specialize, it does do that, but like, trade previously on 1.8.7, you mostly operated, if you were in free trade, you mostly operated as a merchant, where your goal was to simply take advantage of like differences in price, you know, buy low, sell high. And if you did that and also minimize the inputs by like, you know, having land borders with people, and then like, you know, trade rights with them, or just be in free trade, then you could do, or be in an external trade league or something with external trade, you could do a grotesque amount of trading, and that was itself a form of specialization. And that form of specialization was something that was just very easy to accomplish as a smaller and mid-sized economy. You didn't need to do it as a larger economy. Like, as a larger economy in Victoria 3, you can mostly just bully people and make them build things for you. But like in the early game with a smaller economy that had like more backwards pops and like needed more production, more construction points to actually like do things, trade was very strong, because you didn't have to spend production or construction in order to get like good jobs for people. That's gone, but because of the treaty systems, like, you can still do a lot as smaller factions, it seems. So I don't want to say it's like a net bad, but it is a net confusing, because like some of the criticisms that are out there about the trade system in Victoria 3 do not make sense, at least in my lived experience, with like playing ridiculous tags on 1.8.7. And those, I imagine, are probably more difficult because I see people posting about it on Reddit. So like, it's shifted the balance of power around, and I think as long as they make it so that the smaller tags are still like playable, then I'm fine with it. But they need to make sure that the smaller tags are playable, because if they're not, if they're just there for as food or as noob traps or as like ways for crazy people to interact with the game, I don't like those tags as much. I think they're more interesting when they appeal to more people. All right, what do we want to choose as our last culture here? Before I go get, I guess I need to end the stream here, because I am really burning up. Normally, I would be inclined to take something like Achaemenid Persians on vanilla. Like, +1 city cap is a lot lower than +2 city cap. Therefore, this is, I think, like a much more reasonable pick, instead of like the +2. Like, this was better than Marian's when Estate worked well, but Estate doesn't work well, so like, we don't need to worry about that. And traders, I guess we could use the market quarter. We did discuss that as an option here. Polynesians, do we have something interesting to explore towards? Not really. We don't need exploration because we have a crap ton of people to interact with. Oh my god. All right, well, maybe we're just gonna do like, oops, I'll trade. There's no trade bonus there. There's, at least we can, once we get Kothons going, that's a way for us to spend off a bunch of extra influence, but this is going to be influence. And then if we conquer this, the way Bruno has rebalanced it is that conquering free cities is no longer free. You just need to spend influence to eat them, and I think that probably makes sense. You just need, if that's where we are, then we just need to make cities cheaper, so that way the AI doesn't just like ignore city cap bonuses and do stuff and ignore the center of the game. I've never played Han, actually. I don't think I've ever played Han. Yeah, you know what? All right. Some of the things that we make, some of the decisions that we're going to make over these streams are going to be determined by the environment. because I am a dialectical materialist, but some of them are not going to be determined by the environment. Some of them are going to be determined by our Geist, because I think that there's an element of truth to that too. And I'm going to take this because I actually like the Han Dynasty. I do not like the Ming Dynasty. If you are deliriously insane, I can explain that in our next stream, I guess, because that's what we're gonna do. Crazy stuff. We're gonna talk about history. We're gonna talk about the game. We're gonna talk about 4X game design. If the streams end up being too long, I'll edit them down. But I'm probably just gonna put like little chapters. Yeah, look at this. Look at the ludonarrative produced by this video. It tells me to go conquer stuff. Like, geez, I wanna conquer things now. Because that's what the game asked me to do. Alright, for now, though, Lulu, thank you for stopping by. I think Gabe was here, too. Thank other people, everyone who enjoys this content. And if you want to learn how to play Humankind, I will be making some streams like that, too. But this one is, like, pure metaphysical critique game play. And then once I feel like I am in a useful mood, I will make content that is more digestible. Other than that, I don't know, like, this is a great genre. I just don't want it to go anywhere. And like, the more that I look at Steam database, I maybe I am projecting, but I have to assume that there are panicked conversations in finance stores somewhere. And I think it's because they're making games for like 10% of us and saying the other 90% of you, if you're not having fun the way that like these 10% of players say you have to have fun in a 4X, then like get out of here. And that sort of niching is just like grotesque and is definitely going to contribute to the destruction something beautiful here. And that makes me crocodile. That makes me feel crocodile. But yeah, we're gonna pick this up probably Thursday, assuming that the AC is fixed. If not, then it'll be Friday, but it'll be like earlier during the day, assuming that the AC is fixed, because I'm trying to do a Magic draft at 7 p.m. Eastern. But we will find out. We will be flexible, and we will be bizarre, and we will start figuring out what these other buttons do. Because what the hell is this? Demilitarization in this economy? I don't think so. All right, everybody. That's